workshop on basics of Linux administration. Okay, I'm going to give you overview in these 5 days how you can use or how Linux server administration can be done. Okay, what are the parts in Linux administration, and we will cover some of the basic parts, right? So that you will get idea if you want to work as a Linux administrator, what knowledge you should have. Okay. So I'll just show the index first, what we are going to cover in these upcoming 5 days, and then we'll start with the day one content. Anytime if anybody has any doubt, you can write in a chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask, or at the end of session we will have a question answer session. Okay. Yeah.
Just a minute. One student is introducing you.
Yeah.
Introduction will be.
Yeah,
Yes, Kavita.
Fine.
Kavita.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I, Kavita Sahu, third year student from Computer Department, welcome you all for 5 days Linux workshop. I would like to thank Ms. Diksha Narayankar ma'am, an alumni of DYP-REMR, who is working in iVertex company for taking the initiative for this workshop. Furthermore, let me introduce you all with our speaker, Mrs. Manjiri Tilak ma'am. Ma'am has completed her engineering in electronics from North Maharashtra University. Ma'am is having total 8+ years of experience in technical support and is currently working with iVertex Technologies, Pune as technical trainer. Ma'am is certified in RHCE, CCNA, CCNP and has been conducting trainings for the same. So, without wasting much more time, I hand over the session to ma'am.
Thank you. So now can we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I guess my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. Just a moment. Just give me a moment, okay? What is happening? Okay, just a moment. Okay, now let's start. Welcome all to this 5 days Linux workshop where we are going to see just a moment.
Teams to window.
Next slide goes to slides. आरोही नहीं जाता है ना काम. नेक्स्ट स्लाइड में आरोही नहीं जाता है ना. Okay. Okay, now let's see what we are going to cover in the coming 5 days. On day 1, we are going to cover history of Linux and its overview. Okay. Then we will learn about what is RHEL, that is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Then we'll see shell basics because as you all know, Linux is a command line operating system. So we are going to use a shell to execute the commands. So we'll see shell basics. Now, if you want to do the hands-on labs or practicals, right, then Red Hat has one platform for you. So I will introduce that platform lab.redhat.com, where you can get a machine where you can execute all the commands which we are going to learn in this 5 days. Okay. And then today we'll cover basic commands, right? What basic commands are available to make you familiar with the command line operating system, Linux. Then on day 2, we will cover what is file system hierarchy in Linux, because as you know, in Linux, everything is considered as a file. So it is very important for you to understand how file system hierarchy is and where the things get stored, how to locate your hard disk, how to find out your data, right, which is stored in the Linux system. So we'll cover that in the file system hierarchy. Then we'll see the directory operations, how we can navigate from one directory to other, how we can create a directory, right? How we can store the content. Then we'll see user administration part, how you can create different user accounts, right? How you can manage permissions on them, properties of the users, everything we are going to see in the user administration. Then on day 3, we will cover certain permissions associated with the user accounts. Means any user account which is available in your system can do what in your system, right? What that user can access in your system, that we will cover on day 3. Then if you want to configure any particular service, because you know Linux is a server operating system, so definitely we are going to configure multiple services on our system. Now to configure any service, first thing we need is an application for that server, right, or service. So we'll see that how to manage those applications in the package management part, right? Then one of the security in the Linux we will cover in the firewall section on day 4, right? Then I will show you how you can set up your server as a basic web server to host a simple website on day 4. And then very important part in Linux administration is your disk administration, right? How to find out what are the hard disks available in your system, how you can create partitions in that, how you can use those partitions to store the data. So these are some of the highlights you can see from the basic administration part of a Linux that I have chosen for this 5 days workshop. So now let's start with the day 1 content, right? So first we have to start with the history of Linux and its overview, right? So see, you know, Linux is basically derived from Unix operating system, right? The original operating system, or before Linux, which operating system was there in the market? It was a Unix operating system, right? So in 1969, in Bell and AT&T laboratories, Dennis Lilly and Kim Thompson, right, has written a code of Unix, right? But that Unix code was commercialized by different vendors, right? And they have made their own distribution based on that Unix code, which was derived by Kim Thompson, right? And that's why the Unix was not a free operating system at that time. So all these flavors you can say of Unix were paid, and Unix was totally a commercial operating system. So different flavors of Unix, which was used by the 1980s, was IBM AIX. Sun has developed their own operating system, Solaris. HP was having their own Unix flavor named HP UX, right? Now, after some time, Richard Stallman has taken up initiative, you can say, to create one open source project, which is known as GNU project. And then in 1990s, one student, Linus Torvald, which was at Helsinki University, has developed one kernel code, right? And it made it as an open source. Just a moment, huh? Hello. Kelly है. One sec. Now is it visible? Screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. You should have unmute yourself to tell me that the screen is not visible. Okay. So what we were discussing? Okay. In 1990s, the Linus Torvald has come up with a Linux kernel code, right? And it has posted that code in the open source community, that is GNU under GPL license, okay? Open source license. At the same time, or nearly about same time, another operating system, a Linux operating system, is developed by GNU, and that was a GNU Linux, which were having some of the applications associated with the Linux kernel, and the way or by development, or you can say by both of them, then a new Linux operating system is come to market, which is an open source operating system, right? It was a free operating system and registered under an open source license with the name GNU Linux, right? So this is how Linux came into market. And then the same Linux kernel code has taken by any or multiple, you can say, open source contributors, maybe an individual or maybe an organization, and they have developed different flavors of Linux. So nowadays we have different flavors of Linux available in the market. Is that clear, everyone? Anybody wants to ask anything here? If anybody wants to ask anything, you can just unmute yourself and ask. So now next question arises, what is Linux, right? Now Linux is, you can say, a critical technology for IT professionals to understand. And basically Linux is a kernel. So Linux is not an operating system, but it is a kernel. And now kernel is nothing but what? A core component of operating system. Now, why kernel is needed, or what are the functions of kernel? Definitely kernel interacts with the hardware, right? It manages CPU, memory, right? And processes. Whatever happening in your system is managed by kernel. So Linux is basically a kernel, or you can say a core component of operating system. When Linux kernel is associated with multiple application softwares, then one operating system gets created, which is based on that Linux kernel, right? Now, what is operating system again? Operating system is an interface between hardware and software. So whenever Linux is termed as an operating system, means a basic Linux kernel and some of the applications associated with that Linux kernel, which forms an operating system, right? So for a user to interact with the system, operating system is needed, right? And whatever instruction user give with the help of those applications, right, to send those applications to the hardware, kernel is needed, right? So as a user, we interact with the software, so you can say operating system, and definitely kernel interacts with the hardware so that all the instructions given by users will be sent to hardware component, right? Now next part comes as why we should choose Linux, right? What was the problem with Unix? All the versions of Unix were commercialized and not open source, right? So Unix was a commercial operating system, but as compared to Unix, when Linux was launched, so Linux is a open source. Now, when you say anything as a open source, what do you mean by that? Open source means open source software is a software with source code that anyone can use, study, modify, and share. Means source code of that operating system or a kernel Linux is open source, freely available to anyone. So if you as a developer wants to contribute in that code, definitely you can, because Linux source code is published under open source licenses, right? So source code is nothing but a set of human readable instructions that we use to make programs, right? And this open code of Linux is a open source code, right? So upon creating source code, it's get copyrighted, definitely, right? And the copyright holder controls the term under which the software can be copied, adapted, and distributed, right? So definitely whoever writes the code or creates the code has the copyright of that code, and as per the instructions given by that copywriter, the code can be reused, right? Copied, adapted, distributed means that code can be reused, right? So now we can use these software under software licenses. Means there is a way how you can copyright your code with the help of licenses, right? So now we have two types of licenses in open source category. Now some of the source codes are closed source, right? Means they don't have access to anybody, right? The access is not available to anybody. So these are closed source. So can you tell me any of the operating system which has a closed source license? Anyone? Which operating system you can consider as a licensed operating system or for which source code is not freely available?
Windows.
Yes, Windows, right? Mac also you can say, which is basically derived from Linux itself. But again, Mac is again a licensed operating system, right? But when we talk about open source licenses, again, we have two categories. One is a copyleft license we have in open source category, and the other license is a permissive license, right? So now let's just give a brief overview on this copyleft and permissive type of licenses, right? So see what is written here. Copyleft license means what? When the copyright holder provides software under an open source license, they grant the user right to run the program and also to view, modify, compile, and redistribute the source royalty free to others. Means if somebody has taken that Linux source code, right? Basically, Linus Torvald has registered that Linux source code under copyleft license, right? So that anybody, yes, anybody wants to ask anything? So that anybody can, yes, you're not audible. Hello, hello, you're not audible actually. Do you want to say something? You can write in the chat box as well. If not, can we continue?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. See, so whenever any source code which is published under open source copyleft license is taken by any individual or organization, right? What they can do, they can modify that source code, they can add certain applications to it, and they can develop their own product out of it. But the license will remain same, right? They cannot give another or their individual license to that source code. So all the products, right, created from that source code will be registered under the same license. That is what copyleft license is, right? So GNU GPL is the example, you can say, of copyleft license. So anything which is taken from GPL, right? Any applications, any code which is published under GPL, if somebody wants to reuse it, then that application also will be registered under GNU GPL. So that is what copyleft license will allow users to do. Now the second license which is available under open source category is a permissive license, right? So again, what permissive license means? Permissive licenses are intended to maximize reusability of source code. Users can use the source for any purpose, including reusing that code under more restrictive or even proprietary licenses. Now see, means anything which is taken from a code, suppose, which is available under permissive license, if somebody takes that code, right, if somebody modifies it, then if somebody creates any application from that code, then that user has a right to make that application proprietary. It is not mandatory that same license has to be adapted for your application, but it is for copyleft licenses. But permissive licenses will allow you to make a proprietary product out of your open source code. So one of the example for this permissive license is Apache software license, which is again an open source license, but which comes under permissive category. Clear, everyone? Anybody wants to ask anything here? Two types of licenses available in open source. Now this is the first and biggest advantage of your Linux, that it is a open source operating system, right? Now see, the second advantage of Linux is why we should choose Linux. The second advantage is Linux is very secured operating system. If you compare Linux with all other operating system, you can see Linux as a secure operating system. Now what makes Linux secure? There are multiple points, right? Very first thing which makes Linux secure is a open source security advantage, right? Because Linux source code is open source, right? Because of that, this Linux source code undergoes constant thorough review by members of open source community, right? Because it is open source, it is constantly under review. And as a result of this scrutiny, Linux security vulnerabilities are generally identified and eliminated very rapidly. But this should not happen, or this will not happen with the closed source code, because that code will be scrutinized only by the members of that organization only. But as it is open source, it is continuously scrutinized by number of developers which are part of that open source community. And that's why there are very much higher chances, right, to eliminate all the vulnerabilities which are coming for Linux operating system, right? Then second point, why we say Linux is a secure operating system is that it has a superior user privilege model, right? See, unlike Windows, where everyone is an admin, Linux greatly restricts root access through a strict user privilege model on Linux. So whenever you handle a Linux server, you know there is only one single administrator available, and which is a root user, right? And ordinary users are only granted enough permissions to accomplish common tasks. And who is responsible to give normal user these permissions? Definitely a root user is responsible to give all these normal users permissions, right? So this is another point which makes Linux very secure. And the third important point, by which you can say Linux is secure? It has built-in kernel security defenses, right? So the Linux kernel has an array of built-in security defense, including first firewalls, right? For packet filtering, or firewall that use packet filters in the kernel so that incoming and outgoing traffic you can control for your Linux system. And there are certain predefined rules or policies known as SE-Linux, again which are built in your kernel, that makes Linux very secure. So this is a second point why to choose Linux. First, it is open source. Then second, why to choose Linux? Because Linux is very secured as compared to other operating systems. And because of this, Linux also is known as virus-free operating system. Now, you cannot say it is 100% virus-free, definitely, but yes, it is more prone to viruses, right? Now, the third point to choose your Linux is what? Linux has multiple distributions available. Now, how these distributions are created? Definitely, as I told you, Linux is basically a kernel, and on that kernel, if you apply different applications, right, different user interfaces, then definitely different distributions of Linux will get created, right? So a complete Linux operating system is developed by a collection of independent open source development communities working with individual software components, right? So every distribution may have different software components available, and because of that, we have different flavors of Linux available. So the diagram shows, or an image shows, how many Linux flavors are available. Now, Red Hat Enterprise Linux is one of the Linux flavor or a distribution, and it is a commercialized Linux distribution, right? Now, Linux is a free operating system, definitely, but when you talk about Red Hat Enterprise Linux is a commercialized Linux distribution. So in another way, you can say it is not free operating system, but again, it is a distribution. Now, if you don't want to go for this commercialized distribution, you have many open source distributions available, right? Just like Debian, Fedora, right? OpenSUSE, Mint, Ubuntu, there are a lot of distributions. So this is the third point why we should choose Linux. With security, it has multiple distributions as well, right? Then the fourth point why we should choose Linux is it is very easy to learn and use, as Linux provides a command line interface, because basically Linux is a command line operating system, right? So Linux provides very easy access to powerful and scriptable command line interface, right? Linux was built around basic design philosophy that user can perform all administration tasks from the CLI, right? And that's why whenever you operate or work on CLI, your tasks will be very much faster than operating on the graphical interface, right? Because command line interface will be accessible from shell, right? No need to enable any graphical application so that you will get a graphical user interface. So obviously, whenever you work on command line, it makes Linux very fast and effective, right? So it simplifies both local and remote system administration. And as it is CLI, definitely it is very fast and effective, and it's not that difficult to learn Linux command line interface. Is that clear? Why to choose Linux? So basically we have 4 points why we should choose Linux over other operating systems. First point, it is open source. Second, it is very secure, right? Then third, it has multiple distributions available. And fourth, it has very powerful and easy command line interface, which makes Linux very fast and effective. Clear, everyone? Any doubt here? If anybody wants to ask anything, definitely you can. If no doubts are there, can we go to next topic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right? Now see. Now let's see what is RHEL, because we are going to study Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right? So you should know what is RHEL, right? So RHEL stands for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Okay. So now first question arises in mind is, who is Red Hat or what is Red Hat, right? So you can say Red Hat is an organization which works on different open source product development, right? And one of the product of that Red Hat is Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right? So Red Hat Enterprise Linux is enterprise ready, commercially supported Linux distribution. It is a leading platform for open source computing. So Red Hat again is using their own Red Hat Enterprise Linux to distribute many open source applications, right? So Red Hat is one of the, you can say, major vendor which works in open source development. They have multiple products in virtualization, in automation tool, everywhere. So one of the product from Red Hat is your Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system, and the current version for that operating system is RHEL 8. Okay. Now, as we know, or as I said, Red Hat Enterprise Linux is a commercial operating system and it is not free, right? But how Red Hat Enterprise Linux is designed? Red Hat Enterprise Linux uses subscription-based distribution model. Okay. Now see, what is subscription? Subscription is not license fee, means just like Windows, there is no need to pay license fee for Linux, but definitely you have to purchase certain subscriptions, right? So subscription is nothing but what? You are going to pay for support, maintenance, updates, security patches, access to the knowledge base on the Red Hat customer portal, and definitely in subscriptions, you will have certain certifications as well. Means Red Hat has RHEL as their product, right? And they have their training domain on which they will train you how to work on these Red Hat products or how to operate on this Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And for that, they have different certifications as well, right? So you have to purchase a subscription whenever you are using Red Hat Enterprise Linux operating system. But remember, subscription is not a license fee, but you are going to pay for support, right? For maintenance, for updates and security patches. Clear? Now with the subscription, what Red Hat does? Red Hat helps vendors and customers engage with the open source community and to work with upstream development, right? To develop solutions and fix issues. So once you have a subscription, definitely any bug that you face in your operating system will be rectified by the Red Hat developers, Red Hat engineers, right? So you will get complete or full support for your operating system. And that is the biggest reason why now the organizations are preferring Red Hat Enterprise Linux to deploy their applications or to deploy on their servers, right? Clear? Who is Red Hat and what is Red Hat Enterprise Linux? So in these 4 days workshop, we are going to cover about Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8, right? How the Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 looks like and how you can access it, right? Now, any doubt here in these basics? Anybody? If you want to ask anything, just write in a chat box or unmute yourself and you can ask. So can we go to the next topic?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, see. Okay. Now let's see shell basics. Now why it is need to understand shell basics? Because we are going to access our Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8 system with the help of command line. And to access the command line, we need shell. right? So now let's start with the shell. Now first question comes into mind is what? What is shell, right? So it is a piece of code which provides CLI, right? Now if you want to run any command, definitely there has to be some of the application that you will get where you can write down your command, where you can give an input, right? So that kernel will pass on that input or command to the hardware. So shell is nothing but a piece of code which provides you the command line interface, right? Now command line user interface means you can say a interface or application where you are going to execute the commands, right? Command line user interface where we execute the command. Now how to access this shell means whenever you turn on your system and if you want to run any command, then definitely you want to access the shell. So shell is always accessible through terminal, and terminal again is a application. Terminal is an application which we use to access shell. Now remember from where this terminal keyword come, okay, or from where the terminal term is taken by this Linux. Now in earlier days there were mainframe computers. All of you are must be knowing this, right? There is a mainframe computer. Can anybody tell me what was that mainframe computer or mainframe server? Anyone? Are you familiar with the term mainframe? Just a moment. Huh? Okay, so I was discussing about mainframe. So can anybody tell me what is that mainframe computer?
Ma'am, mainframe computers are those computers which have high computation power, generally
Yes.
used in some industry or organization.
Yes,
For
means
example,
you can,
supercomputers.
yes, supercomputers, right?
Yeah.
So when that mainframe hardware was there or mainframe computers was there, those mainframe computers were not having any, physical console available, right? So at that time, terminal as a physical device was used to access all those mainframe computers, and with the help of multiple physical terminals, multiple users can simultaneously access that mainframe. Okay, so terminal term came from that mainframe. Okay, but now in Linux also, to access the shell, one application is developed known as terminal, right? So in your Linux system you have two types of terminals available. One terminal is known as sudo terminal, right? It is an application available in graphical user interface mode. Means if you have your Linux system available in graphical user mode, GUI mode, and from that, if you want to access the shell to execute some basic commands, then you can use application known as terminal, and that terminal is known as sudo terminal. Okay, but another terminal is a teletype terminal where we can directly logged into shell. Okay, TTY is nothing but a teletype terminal where you will not get any graphical user interface, but whenever you turn on the system, you will directly log in to your shell or a command line interface, right? So in Linux, you have two types of terminal available. So if you have installed your Linux server in a graphical mode, definitely you will be accessing that using sudo terminal, or else you will be using teletype terminals to get the command line interface. Okay. Now in Linux, we have total 6 terminals available. Now if you compare them with the mainframe, in mainframe, different physical terminals were there, but those physical terminals now are virtualized in Linux, and these are known as virtual consoles, because physical console will be only single, but in that one physical console you have 6 different virtual terminals available, from which you can access the shell and you can log in with different user accounts, right? So on one console you can log in with one user account, on another console definitely you can log in with another user account, right? So in RHEL 8 also, you have total 6 virtual consoles available. How to change or how to navigate between that virtual consoles? You can use either Alt Control F1, Alt Control F2, Alt Control F3, F4, F5 and F6. Now, very first virtual console will give you graphical user interface. Means if you install your operating system in graphical environment, on the first virtual console, that is on TTY1, you will get the graphical console, and from other virtual console, you will get CLI access to your system, and you can create 6 different sessions by using these 6 different virtual consoles. Is that clear? How you can access the shell in your system and what is the terminal?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody has any doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Is that clear? Okay. So whenever you have your physical Linux machine, definitely you can check, right? How you can navigate from graphical console to command line, right? That is from TTY1 to TTY2, TTY3, and definitely on all these 6 different terminals, you can have different user login. Clear? Okay. Can we take just a 5 minutes break? There is one emergency. I'll be back. I'll keep the session on. Okay. Just 5 minutes. Will that be okay?
Yeah,
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Students, just wait for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, ma'am will join. Okay.
Okay, so let's continue. What we were discussing about virtual consoles, right? So in any Linux machine, or you can say specifically in RHEL 8, you will have 6 virtual consoles available and which are accessible from Alt Control F1, Alt Control F2, Alt Control F3 till F6. And from each virtual console, you can log into system with different user account. Clear? Now, various Linux distribution use various types of shells. So we have these many types of shells available. SH stands for Bourne shell. CSH is a C shell. KSH is a Korn shell. And bash is a born again shell. So if you change the distribution, type of shell may change, right? So we have these many shells available in your Linux. In RHEL 8, your default shell where you are going to execute command is a bash, okay? So bash is a born again shell. You can say it is an improved version of normal Bourne shell. And from RHEL 7, you have bash as a default shell in Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And many related distribution also use bash as their default shell. So whenever you open a terminal in your RHEL 8 machine, you will be working on bash shell. So now if you want to check, whenever you will access the terminal or access the shell, and if you want to check in which shell you are currently working, then you can give a command echo $shell. Now echo is a simple command to print anything on the screen, right? And shell is nothing but an environmental variable, right? Because this is a predefined variable which stores the value of shell, right? And to extract that value or to print the value which is stored in that shell variable, you are going to use dollar symbol, right? So on your shell prompt, if you give command echo $shell, we are going to execute this definitely. So you will get the answer as bash, means default shell or current shell for your RHEL 8 is a bash shell. Is that clear? So these are many types of shell, and out of that we are going to work on a bash shell, right? Now, when you log into your system, definitely you will have a shell prompt. So it is important for you to understand what your shell prompt says, right, or defines. See, this is how your shell prompt looks like. First, you will have a logged in user, right? The user account by which you will log into your system, there will be a username. Host name means nothing but system name, right? Host name is nothing but name of your system, that is system name. And then you will be working in one of the directory whenever you logged in. So you will see that current working directory in which you will work, right? And everything is enclosed in a square bracket. And after that, either you will have a dollar or you will have a hash prompt. Okay, so you can see two prompts on your screen. Either you can see a dollar prompt or you can see hash prompt, right? So see, root is an administrative user account in your Linux machine. So if you log into your system as a root user or as an admin user, your shell prompt will be like this. Okay, logged in user account is root. Server is nothing but name of the system on which you will be working. So whatever name you will give, that will reflect in your shell prompt, right? So server is nothing but the name of your system, and tilt sign indicates home directory as current working directory for logged in user. Remember, so tilt sign is nothing but home directory. Now we are going to see, right, where these home directories are stored, right? What is the home directory for root user? What is home directory for normal user? Definitely we are going to see this in the file system hierarchy part, right? But for now, just to understand the shell prompt, definitely you should remember this. So shell prompt, you can say, has three parts. One is a user, then a system name, and then a current working directory. And if you observe, if you log into the system as a root, your prompt will be hash, right? Means you have administrative privileges. And for normal users, the shell prompt will be like this, right? Student, say student is a normal user account which is available in your system, right? @ server again is a host name, and tilde sign is again a home directory for that particular student user. Now definitely home directory for root user will be different. Home directory for student user will also be different, right? But whatever the home directory is, right, you will be working in that particular directory, right? And obviously as student is a normal user, you can see a dollar symbol there. So dollar symbol indicates it is a normal user which does not have any administrative privileges. But root definitely has administrative privileges or full access on your system. Is that clear? What is your shell prompt? Any doubt in this? Anyone? Now, if you want to execute the commands, right, for coming 4 days, right? Because see, in Linux, everything is going to be a practical, right? No theory, but all the practical things. And now, if you want to execute the command simultaneously for practice, or if later on, if you want to go for a practice, then definitely you will need a machine provisioned, right? So either you can install RHEL 8 in your virtual machines, in your physical machines, or else you can get a machine provisioned online, right? So where you can get that? You can get your machine from lab.redhat.com, right? So now see, what is this lab.redhat.com? Lab.redhat.com is interactive learning scenarios, right? If you go on this site, you will get multiple interactive learning scenarios, right? Which provide us with a pre-configured Red Hat Enterprise Linux instances to experiment, learn, and see how Red Hat can help you solve real world problems. Means just for the practice, no need to configure or install, right, Red Hat Enterprise Linux in your physical system, or no need to install any VMware or VirtualBox, and you can install operating system. That is one way. But lab.redhat.com gives you ready-made, right, machine provisioned, or you can say instance provisioned, where you can do your practice. So for this upcoming 4 days, to perform all the labs, right, or to execute all of the commands, definitely we are going to use this lab.redhat.com. Okay, so now let's see what this lab.redhat.com is. So I will open browser, right? And now let's see how this lab.redhat.com looks like. Okay, see this. All these are the learning scenarios, right? See, configure terminal session recording, managing software from application stream, right? If you want to provision a machine, definitely you can start any of the scenario. All the scenarios will provision RHEL 8 machine for you, where you can execute your commands, right? So let's start one of the scenario, right? To get access to the system, right? See here. You will see all the information about this scenario. And if you click on the start scenario, one machine will be provisioned for you, where you can definitely execute your commands, right? It will just take 2 or 3 minutes to prepare the environment for you. And once the environment is created, you can use this machine to execute any commands. Okay. See now, is it visible, everyone? Are you able to see the prompt?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So see, this is your shell prompt, means one machine is provisioned for you. If you go to full screen mode, see, this is a logged in user root, right? Then @ is nothing but a system name. Now, if you want to set any particular system name, definitely you can set, because now you have a command line access, right? Shell prompt available. And see, this is a tilde sign, right? This tilde sign indicates current working directory as home directory. And because this is a root, it gives you hash here, right? Now, if you want to check the host name, right, or a system name, simple command you can execute here is host name. Simple. If you give command host name here, it will show you system name. Now, this is something random system name assigned to this scenario, but while practice, you can set your own system name for this particular machine provisioned on lab.redhat.com, right? And all the labs which we are going to perform are supported by these scenarios. Is that clear? What is lab.redhat.com? If all of you also have joined from your laptops, definitely you can try to open that lab.redhat.com so that one machine will be provisioned for you. And whenever I will execute the command, simultaneously, you also can do that. Okay? So do you want to try that? Is anybody trying to open that lab.redhat.com?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So just open it and see what shell prompt you get, right? And then we'll see what are the basic commands that we can execute on this particular system, right? Which is provisioned. So I will wait for 2 minutes. Just open your lab.redhat.com and start scenarios. Any scenario you can start. Okay. Now let's see basic commands, right? What commands you can execute on this particular shell prompt, right? Or command line interface, right? So remember, whenever you execute any command in a Linux system, that command is always divided into 3 parts, right? Or you can say every command has 3 parts, right? First, a command itself, whatever command you are going to execute, that program or a command itself is the first part. Then command can have options, okay? Means with command, you can write some of the options so that you can control the behavior of that command, right? We will see how these options change the behavior of command with examples, right? So on terminal directly, we are going to check, right? All these 3 options or 3 parts of command, right? First, we will execute only command. Then any command we can execute with options or with third part, that is argument, right? So any command may have argument. Now what is argument? Argument is, it is nothing but a target on which we perform operation or we execute the command. Okay. Now you will understand all these 3 parts in the practical, right? Whenever we will execute the commands, definitely you will get the clear idea about it, right? What is command? What are options with the commands? And what is argument? Okay. Now it is very important that all commands in Linux are always written in small letters. So you can say commands are always case sensitive in Linux. So if you give command in the caps, definitely that command is not going to work. All commands you have to give in a small letters only, right? So now see, very first basic command that we can execute on our shell is a echo command. Now what echo command does? Echo command just prints the argument as it is. So whatever argument you will pass to that echo command, it is going to print it as it is. So now see, if I give here echo hello, right? What output this command will give me? Definitely hello keyword will be printed on my screen. Okay. So whenever you are going to give a string with this echo command, you can enclose that string in a double quotes. Means you can write down like this also, echo hello, right? But here echo is not going to print hello with the double quotes, but it is just going to print hello keyword. So echo is going to print any argument given as it is. Okay, because here these double quotes have a special meaning, right? To enclose a string in your scripts or programs, we use double quotes. So because of that, hello in double quotes is not printed by echo command, right? But only hello message is printed, right? So anything, whatever you want to print, you can print it with echo. Is that clear? Now, if you want to remove the special meaning of this double quotes, means if you want to print hello in double quotes, then either you have to use single quotes around them or you can use backspace. Okay. So see, if you write like this, echo, single quote, then double quote, hello, then definitely now it is going to print hello as one sec. See, now it is printing hello with the double quotes, right? So if you want to remove the special meaning of that double quotes, definitely you can include or write your string in a single quote. Clear everyone? What echo command does? So you can print any string, any argument as it is with the help of echo command, right? Now see, if you want to check on which shell you are currently working, definitely you can use command echo dollar shell. Now remember, shell is a variable, right? And variable has to be written as it is or exact. So shell variable is defined in a caps. So while extracting the value from that variable, definitely you have to write it in caps and you have to use dollar symbol before any variable. See now, what output you are getting? When you say echo dollar shell, you are getting bin bash. Means what? All these shells are stored in the bin directory, and which shell you are currently in? You are in the bash shell, born again shell, right? Now see, if you don't give this dollar sign, see what happens. It is just going to print the shell keyword as it is, right? Because now echo will not treat this shell as a variable, but it will treat as a normal argument, right? So to extract the value from variable, definitely you are going to use dollar symbol before variable so that value of the variable will be extracted. Now, as you can write simple scripts also in bash shell, you can define any variable on bash shell as well, right? Say simply, if I define a variable with x and value 20, suppose, right? So what this command is going to do, x is equal to 20, it is just going to define a variable x with value 20, right? Now, if you want to print this value, which is stored in the x variable, how your command will be? See, if you write simple echo x, what it is going to print? It is going to print x only, right? But same command if you use with dollar, definitely you will get the 20 value, right? Means you can define any variable on your shell, and if you want to print value of that variable, you can use dollar symbol. Clear everyone? Have you tried executing this?
Yes, ma'am.
Echo command, right? Right? So see, we have seen this echo command. So either you can pass a single word, a string, whatever you want with echo, right? And single quote we use to remove special meaning of the symbol, right? Now, if you want to extract the value of variable, definitely we have used command echo $x, because echo x is not going to extract the value, right? Now, just like shell, you have number of environmental variables available, right? If you want to check all these environment variables available, simple command you can use is env, right? Env is going to list all the environmental variables available, right? See, all these are nothing but environment variables or predefined variables available in your system, right? See, host name is one of the environment variable, right? User is one of the environment variable. Similarly, shell is also one of the environment variable, right? See, which has the value bin bash, correct? Now, another command you can use to clear your screen is clear, right? So that all the output of the screen will be cleared and you will get the shell prompt, right? So now if you want to check logged in user with the help of echo command, simple command you can use is what? Echo $user, right? Because user is an environment variable which stores the current logged in user information, right? Similarly, you can use hostname command to extract the value from the hostname variable. Clear everyone? Now similarly, you can use tty command to check the terminal, right? So it is the first terminal, so the number is 0, right? So tty is a command you can execute to check your terminal, on which terminal you are logged in. Clear? What is echo command? Any doubt in this? Echo command, how to check environmental variables? So can we move to the next command?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now see, you can check bash PID user, right? Any environmental variable you can check with the echo command. Just use dollar symbol, right? Now see, second command in a basic commands category is a date command. If you want to check the current date or time of your system, simply you can use date command. Now see, if I use date command, what I'm actually giving? A command itself, right? No options and no arguments, right? So date is a single command I'm going to execute to check the system date. See, now these scenarios are not set in a time zone GMT plus 5:30. That's why you can see a different time. But see, Monday, June 28 means it is showing date and current time of your system, right? Now date command has many of the options, right? Now whenever you are executing a date command, it is giving you a full output, right? That is, first it is giving you a day, right? That is Monday. Then it is showing you a month, June, then a date, 28, then a timestamp, right? And then a year. Now, if you want to control the behavior of this date command, okay? If you want to control the behavior of this date command, see, Now the next command which is written is what? It is written with something like plus, %d, %m, %y, right? Now what these are? These are nothing but the options, right? And to use those options with the date command, we are going to use plus sign, okay? Now see, if you don't know what are the options that I can use with the date command, how you can find out that? Simple, you can take a option related help on a command line with -help. Okay, now see, -help is again one of the option that you are using with the date command. Means now I'm going to execute a date command with a command argument and a option, right? So what -help is going to show me what are the different options available with the date command and how I can use them. See now, these are the different options that are available with the date command. See here, all the options are mentioned, right? If you give %a, what the output of date command will be? Only day, right? And not in full form, just a abbreviated, right? For Sunday, it will just print SUN, right? If you go for %A, then it will just display again a day, but in a full name, right? And if you go upside or upward, here you will see how you can use this options with the date command. See, again you have some options you can use with hyphen, right? And see, here the format you have to use is plus format, right? So see now, if I now give command date, but with that if I use plus a, small a, %a, right? See, the output of date command has changed, right? If you just give command date, definitely you will get the full output for the command. But now if you apply some option with the date command, your output is changed, or you can say modified, right? Means what? Option is controlling the behavior of the command, yes or no, right? As we use different options with it, I will get the output in different format. Clear everyone? How option change the output or behavior of the command? Clear? Any doubt here? Now some of the options with the command definitely either can be used with a single hyphen, or you can use the option with a double hyphen, right? Hyphen or single hyphen. But with date command, whenever you want output in different formats, you have to use plus sign, then %, and then you can use either small letters or the capital letters. See, similarly, if I give command like this, what it is showing me? Only a date. But now if I give capital D, see, now it is showing me the full date, right? Date, month, year, everything. Is that clear? Similarly, if you want to check the month, see, simply you can give %m, correct? And %y for the year, right? So similarly, if you want to check the date like this, you can use command like this: %d, %m, %y. Now how the output will be? It will show you the output like this, right? 28/6/2021. Clear everyone? How to use date command with the option? Any doubt in second command date? Have you executed it on your systems?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Have you checked the behavior? How the output of date command is changing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now see. Now the third command that we have is a cal command, right? Now cal command will be used to view the calendar, right? See now. Let's execute this cal command now on a terminal. Again, if you want to clear the screen, you can simply use clear, or shortcut for this is Control L, right? If you use Control L, it will again do the same thing. It will clear your screen. Now see, the next command is a cal command, correct? Now what it is printing? Cal is printing the calendar for the current month, right? With the current or today's date highlighted, right? Now again, if you want to check what are the options which we can use with the cal command, simply you can use cal hyphen hyphen help. See, now there are multiple options available, and all these options either you can specify with a single dash or hyphen, or two dashes, two hyphens, right? Now see, hyphen 1 means it will show the calendar for current month, right? Single month. But if you use command cal with hyphen 3 option, it will show you the calendar for 3 months, right? Current month, previous month, and the next month, right? So let's try this option. Now see, whenever you are going to give options with the command, after command, you have to give a space, then use hyphen, and then say 3, right? So now again, I'm executing a command with option, right? But right now I haven't used any argument. But yes, I'm now executing a command with the option. See now? Now 3 months calendar is there on my screen. Calendar for the month of May, calendar for the month of June and July. Clear? Means again, option has changed the behavior of your cal command, right? So this is the use of option itself. Option is going to change the behavior of the command, right? So if you want to print calendar, definitely use cal command, and you can explore all the options because all the options are available in the help. Clear? So this is the third command, cal, which you can execute, right? Then fourth command is pwd, right? Now pwd is going to show you your current working directory, right? So pwd stands for print working directory. So now see, if I give here command pwd, right? See, what is my current working directory? It is /root, right? So this tilt sign is nothing but a home directory, right? And home directory for root user is nothing but /root, right? We are going to see this in the file system hierarchy. But for now, if you want to check in which directory currently you are working, you can simply give pwd command, and after giving pwd command, you will see on which directory you are currently in, right? Now see, if I give command, see now my shell prompt is changed, correct? Now we are going to learn about cd command, okay, in directory operations. But now see, this shell prompt is different, right? And this shell prompt is different. Now for this shell prompt, current working directory is not home directory for root, but now it is temp. So if you give pwd command here, see, now in which directory you are working? You are in the /temp directory. Is that clear? What pwd command does? So pwd is very much effective command, right? Because always you are going to work on a command line whenever you are working in Linux. So it is always, necessary to know in which directory we are working, right? Where our documents are stored. So if you want to open any file or if you want to open any document, definitely you have to give the path of that document. Then only the document will get open. And that's why every time pwd is very effective command to check in which current directory you are in, right? And so that you can decide how I can give a path for my document or a file to open. Clear everyone? pwd command. Any doubt in pwd? Now see, what is the next command for you? Next command is a passwd command. Okay. Now passwd command is used to change the password of current user, right? So if you give command passwd, right? See, as a root user, if I execute this command, passwd, see, now it is asking for new password, means passwd command is going to set the password for current logged in user, right? Now see, if I set a password, see, all authentication tokens updated successfully, means my password is set for root user, right? Now remember, passwd command can be used by administrator, that is root user, or any of the normal user. Okay, means if you have any normal user account in your system, that normal user also can change password for that user account only. But root definitely can change password for all the user accounts available in the system. Now, if say a student user account is available in your system, right? And if root wants to change the password for student user, then root can use command like this. See, only passwd is going to change the password for current logged in user, and passwd student is now going to change password for student user. Now can you tell me what this student is here in this command? We have seen.
User.
Yes, it is the user, but command has three parts, right? Passwd is a command itself, right? Then with date command, we have used certain options. With cal command also, we have used certain options, correct? So we have seen how to use command with the option. But now, is student considered as an option here, or is it argument? What is the third part in the command? It is argument, right? And what is meant by argument? Argument is a thing on which your command will execute. Yes or no? So student will be treated as argument here, right? Passwd command is going to change password for which user? Student user. So this is the option of executing a command with argument. We are not using any option with this, but now we are executing a command with argument. Is that clear, everyone? What student is here in the command? Now here student is not treated as the option, but here the student is treated as the argument for the command itself. Clear? Any doubt in this? So see, sometimes you can give only command, sometimes you can execute command with option, and sometimes you can execute command with argument, right? And sometimes definitely you can use command with option as well as argument. So we'll see example of that also, right? Now see, let's see whether it works or not. See, now as student user is not available, right? The command hasn't worked, because if student user is available in your system, definitely root can change the password for student user. But right now in this system, student user is not available. So if you want to check this command, first you need to add user student in the system. Then definitely root can assign password to the user. Clear? See, so with passwd command, you have to remember this important note. Only root user can change password for other users, right? But normal users can change their own password. Means if student wants to change password for student user, it is possible, right? Normal user can change their own passwords. Then for normal user, password should follow password policies. Means password should have 8 characters, one special character. It should not be dictionary word, right? So all these restrictions are applicable for normal user, right? To set the password. But for root user, there is no any restriction, right? Root user can set any simple password for any user account, right? It will give you warning that your password is bad, right? Or it does not follow the rules, or it is not having any special character, right? So it can be easily cracked. But yes, password will be set. So if root user is going to set password, there are no restrictions. But whenever any normal user will set a password, definitely there are restrictions that any normal user has to follow the password policies. Clear everyone? PassWD command. Any doubt in PassWD or all the previous commands that we have seen? We have seen date, cal, pwd, passwd, echo command, right? The next command you can use is a su command, right? Su command can be used to just switch user account. But for that, you should have a user account available, right, in the system. So I'll just add one user in the system. You are going to see all these commands, how you can add the user. Now I can use passwd command for student user, because now the user student is available in the system, right? So now I can give command passwd student. So now let's set the password as student only. Now see, this is a bad password, right? But as root is setting it, it will be allowed, right? So all authentication tokens updated successfully, right? So now you have student user account available. Now from root user, if you want to switch the user account, simple command you can use is su-student. Okay. Now why we have to use dash? We will see this, right? But see now. Now if you check, your shell prompt is changed. Now you are logged in as a student user to system. Means from one user account, you have logged into the student user account. Now if I execute the command pwd, right? See now, what this tilde sign indicates for student user? A different directory, name, home, student. Is that clear? Again, if you want to come back to your root user, simply you can use exit. Okay. Now, if you don't mention any username after su dash, then you will log into the root user. See, if you give su simple dash without any username, that means you want to switch your user account to the root user, right? Or else you can mention username to which you want to switch your user account. Now see, whenever root user wants to switch to student user account, password will not be asked because root does not require any password to switch user account. But as a student user, whenever you will execute a command like this, suppose su dash, and if I don't mention any username, what is the meaning of this? I want to switch to root user account, right? So now see, now password is asked because student is a normal user. So whenever from any normal user, you are going to switch your user account, password will be mandatory, right? So you have to give the password for root account, then only you will get the access. Clear everyone? How to use this su command? See, now again if I say exit, I will be back to my root account. Clear how you can use su command? Now tell me, Anyone has any doubt in these 6 commands? Anybody wants to ask anything about these 6 commands which we learned in the basic commands category? We have executed only command, command with option, and command with argument, right? Now see, one of the very useful command that you can use, right? Whenever we see directory operation is a ls command. See this. Now simple, ls command just lists the content of the current working directory, right? So again, whenever you are using or going to use this ls command, this is command itself, right? So it is going to show me some output, correct? It is showing me some output. It is displaying or showing the contents of your current working directory, right? See, your current working directory is /root and ls is just showing me contents of the current working directory, right? Now remember, whenever you use ls command without any argument, right? Argument considered is a current working directory. So ls is currently executing on your current working directory and it is showing the contents of /root directory. Okay, but see now, if I use command like this, now tell me what /temp is here with ls command. Whenever I'm using ls/temp, what this /temp is or tmp is? Anyone? Whenever I'm executing command like this, ls space /tmp, what is the meaning of this? Which two parts I am using in the command? Which two parts? Is it command and option or is it command and argument? What it is? Anyone? You can write in chat box or command and argument, definitely, right? This is we are giving as command and argument, right? So where this ls now will work? It will show the contents of /tmp directory. See, the output is different, right? Because only ls is going to treat current working directory as an argument. But whenever you execute command ls/temp means ls is considering or taking /temp as a argument, right? Now see, another way, if I use command like this, ls space -l, now I am executing command with a option, right? So again, argument will be current working directory, right? And the output definitely is different from normal ls command, right? It is showing the long listing, right? But again, if I use command like this, now you can say it is a complete command. This command has everything, right? It has a command, it has an option as well as it has an argument. See now, what it is showing? It is showing the content of /temp directory and in the long listing format. Clear everyone? How you can execute the basic commands? Any doubt in this?
No, ma'am.
How to access the shell and how you can execute basic commands on your shell prompt. Right? So now, if you are familiar with this, right? Syntax we have seen. So if anybody has any question, you can ask me, right? I will try to solve your doubts. And with all these basic knowledge, tomorrow definitely we can start with the file system hierarchy because it is an important topic that you need to understand while working with Linux systems. And after that, Okay, how can we see all the user accounts? See, you will see that in user administration, but here I just show you there is one file in which all the user information is stored, right? And if you want to check all the user accounts in the system, you can view that file. See, the file is etc passwd. We are going to see this in user administration. See, all these are the user accounts which are available in your system. Okay. So at the end, see, there is an entry for student user, right? This will definitely come in user administration part, right? Whenever we are going to see the user administration, definitely we'll see how to check all the user accounts available in the system, right? Whenever we are going to add user account, then also we are going to check, right, where that user is added. Clear? Now this much knowledge is required, right, to go to file system hierarchy and then to understand directory operations, right? Once you know what are the directories available in your system, right, and how you can navigate from one directory to other, what is the purpose of that, everything we are going to cover tomorrow, right? That is in tomorrow's index. But anything else you want to ask other than this, how to check all the users? That will be there in user administration, but I have shown you the command, right? You can check the etc passwd file if you want to check all the user accounts. Anything else anybody wants to ask?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, can we conclude today's session?
Thank you, ma'am, like for sharing your valuable time with us and like letting us know about the history of Linux, what is RHEL, and some basic commands. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, so tomorrow we will deep dive further, right? So tomorrow at 10:30 sharp, I guess the same meeting link, right? We are going to use
Link, ma'am.
hmm?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right? So tomorrow we will join on the same meeting link at 10:30 and we'll see the remaining topics, right? So have a nice day.